The Galactic Federation, a coalition of predominantly civilized species, harbored a secret concern. Their meticulously crafted planetary classification system, a source of immense pride and self-satisfaction for its architects, had encountered a perplexing anomaly. For millennia, this system had flawlessly categorized planets from Class 1, serene paradises perfect for leisurely getaways, to Class 12, nightmarish environments where survival was a fleeting miracle. Then came Earth, a Class 13 world, informally known as a Deathworld. While the existence of such perilous planets wasn't entirely unprecedented, Earth's peculiarity lay not in its inherent danger but in its capacity to support not only life, but a thriving civilization. The term civilization itself, as many Federation observers noted, was applied generously in Earth's case. Dr. Glack, a seasoned scientist whose tentacles quivered from the sheer existential stress of studying Earth, vehemently challenged the data. "The numbers are wrong," he insisted, slapping a holographic display with a sound that would have been a resounding thud if his species had functional hands. He cited volcanic activity, tectonic instability, aggressive megafauna, and extreme temperature fluctuations as evidence of Earth's uninhabitability. "This planet should be barren, a cosmic joke," he declared. A junior analyst timidly suggested that perhaps the humans had adapted. Dr. Glack's 6 eyes narrowed. "Adapted to what?" he retorted. "Hurricanes that could slice through steel, oceans full of voracious predators, and an atmosphere that's essentially a poisonous cocktail they breathe for recreation." Just then, an urgent message buzzed through the Federation Council chambers. It was an intercepted transmission from Earth, though the humans seemed to broadcast everything with a cosmic dare. The video feed opened with a jarring guitar riff and a man in flamboyant attire yelling, "Welcome to the Extreme Skydive Challenge. Today, we're over an active volcano." The council watched in horrified fascination as the man leaped from a helicopter, deployed a parachute emblazoned with his own grinning face, and narrowly avoided a fiery demise. Another transmission followed, a montage of humans willingly grappling with massive reptiles for sport. "What are we witnessing?" wailed Councillor Fluck, fresh from therapy after a mild Class 5 hurricane simulation. An assistant, visibly shaken but remarkably composed, explained, "They refer to it as the entertainment." A heavy silence blanketed the room, broken only by Dr. Glack's weary voice, "We need to see this for ourselves. Assemble a team, and someone get me the strongest drink in the galaxy." The Galactic Federation, a coalition of mostly civilized worlds, had a rather significant problem, although very few were willing to acknowledge it openly. Their meticulously designed planetary classification system, a source of much self-congratulation amongst its creators, which had operated flawlessly for millennia, had hit a snag. Planets were neatly categorized from Class 1, idyllic vacation spots with breathtaking sunsets and excessively amiable flora, to Class 12, where survival was a statistical improbability. Then there was Earth. The problem wasn't Earth's existence per se. Class 13 planets, informally known as Death Worlds, were uncommon, but not unheard of. What confounded every scientist in the Federation was how a place as inherently hostile as Earth could support not only life, but an entire civilization. And the term civilization, as many Federation observers noted, was used rather loosely in Earth's case. Dr. Glack, a distinguished scientist whose tentacles twitched with the cosmic anxiety of studying Earth, was adamant that the data was flawed. "The numbers simply don't add up," he exclaimed, striking a holographic display with a sound that would have been a resounding slap had his species possessed hands. He pointed to the volcanic activity, tectonic instability, aggressive megafauna, and extreme temperature variations as proof of Earth's uninhabitability. "This planet should be devoid of life, a cosmic absurdity," he declared. A junior analyst meekly offered that perhaps humans had adapted. Dr. Glack's 6 eyes narrowed. "Adapted to what?" he retorted. "Cyclones that could shred metal, oceans teeming with ravenous predators, and an atmosphere that's practically a toxic brew they inhale for amusement." At that very moment, a high-priority message alerted the Federation Council chambers. The source was Earth, or rather, it was an intercepted broadcast, though humanity seemed to transmit everything with a universal invitation. The video feed opened with a blaring guitar chord and a man in ostentatious clothing shouting, "Welcome to the Extreme Skydiving Challenge. Today, we're above an active volcano." The council watched with horrified captivation as the man jumped from a helicopter, deployed a parachute emblazoned with his own grinning visage, and narrowly escaped a fiery fate. Another transmission followed, a compilation of humans willingly wrestling enormous reptiles, seemingly for sport. "What in the cosmos are we observing?" cried Councillor Fluck, recently returned from therapy after a simulated Class 5 hurricane, a relatively mild event by galactic standards. An aide, visibly perturbed yet remarkably composed, clarified, "They call it entertainment." A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by Dr. Glack's weary sigh. "We must witness this firsthand. Assemble a team, and someone fetch me the strongest beverage in the galaxy." Thus began the Federation's ill-conceived mission to investigate the anomaly known as Earth, a decision that would perplex them for ages to come. Captain Graal Glim, considered a courageous leader, which in Federation terms meant no one else wanted the assignment, gazed down at the swirling blue and green sphere below his ship with a mixture of awe and queasiness. The planet didn't just appear alive, it seemed actively hostile. Cyclones of immense proportions churned across the oceans, towering plumes of ash and smoke erupted from the landmasses, and the continents themselves shifted restlessly. "Looks inviting," muttered Dr. Pedix Quorn, the mission's lead xenobiologist, his multiple forearms nervously tapping at his console. "I'm detecting seismic readings that would obliterate most Class 7 planets." "And yet," Graal said, gesturing with a tentacle towards the screen, "those bipedal eccentrics are down there having picnics." Picnics, Pedix thought, on a death trap. The rest of the crew fidgeted uncomfortably. The exploratory vessel, the Oblivious Venture had seen its share of unusual worlds, but Earth was in a class of its own. Captain Graal had been particularly disturbed by reports of the planet's apex predator, mosquitoes. Tiny flying bloodsuckers, no larger than a grain of sand, capable of transmitting lethal diseases with a single bite. "What manner of cosmic horror is that?" Graal had exclaimed during the mission briefing. The crew had no answer. Now, parked in low orbit, the team deliberated their next move. "We could deploy a Class 4 probe," suggested Tactical Officer Blam Fink, whose role was largely ceremonial on an exploratory vessel, but who overcompensated with an excess of enthusiasm. Graal sighed. "Probes are for Class 6 planets. We're not going to poke this thing with a stick. We need boots on the ground," he said, figuratively speaking. "Why not literally?" Pedix inquired. "Because," Graal snapped, "literal boots on this ground will be incinerated, liquefied, or worse." Nevertheless, a landing party was assembled, consisting of Graal, Pedix, and Blam, along with Communications Officer Friday Wicks, whose sole purpose was to declare "We come in peace" in a soothing voice. Friday had practiced this phrase diligently, oblivious to the fact that humans tended to be more suspicious of soothing voices than anything else. The ship's landing sequence commenced. "Entering atmosphere," announced the ship's computer, helpfully adding, "Warning, this atmosphere contains trace amounts of nitrogen dioxide, sulfur compounds, and existential dread." "Sounds charming," Graal muttered, as the ship shuddered violently. Flames licked at the viewport, and for a fleeting moment, everyone on board regretted every career decision they'd ever made. Then, with a jarring thud, the ship landed in what sensors had identified as a low-threat zone, a quiet farm in Kansas. The Galactic Federation's mission to understand Earth, the enigmatic Class 13 Deathworld, began with a rather bumpy start. Captain Graal Glim, known for his bravery, or rather, his unfortunate availability for hazardous assignments, looked upon the swirling blue and green sphere below his ship with a blend of wonder and apprehension. Earth didn't just appear lively, it seemed aggressively volatile. Gigantic cyclones raged across the oceans, enormous columns of ash and smoke billowed from the landmasses, and the very continents appeared to be in a state of perpetual unrest. "Quite picturesque," remarked Dr. Pedix Quorn, the expedition's chief xenobiologist, his numerous forelimbs tapping anxiously on his control panel. "I'm registering seismic activity that would completely devastate most Class 7 planets." "And yet," Graal replied, indicating the screen with a tentacle, "those peculiar bipeds are down there enjoying outdoor meals." "Picnics," Pedix mused, in the midst of a planetary death trap. The remaining crew members shifted uneasily. The Oblivious Venture their exploratory vessel, had witnessed its share of unusual celestial bodies, but Earth was in an entirely different league. Captain Graal had been especially disconcerted by reports of the planet's dominant predator, mosquitoes. These minuscule flying bloodsuckers, no larger than a speck of dust, possessed the ability to transmit fatal diseases with a single bite. "What kind of cosmic monstrosity is this?" Graal had exclaimed in the mission briefing. His crew had offered no explanation. Currently positioned in low orbit, the team contemplated their next course of action. "Perhaps we could deploy a Class 4 probe," suggested Tactical Officer Blamfink, whose position was mostly symbolic on an exploratory mission, a fact he compensated for with an overabundance of zeal. Graal sighed. "Probes are designed for Class 6 planets. We're not going to cautiously prod this world. We need direct observation," he stated, using the term metaphorically. "Why not literally?" Pedix questioned. "Because," Graal snapped, "literal boots on this terrain would be vaporized, melted, or subjected to an even worse fate." Despite this, a landing party was formed, comprised of Graal, Pedix, and Blam, accompanied by Communications Officer Friday Wicks, whose sole function was to proclaim "We come in peace" in a calming manner. Friday had diligently rehearsed this phrase, completely oblivious to the human tendency to distrust soothing voices more than almost anything else. The vessel initiated its landing sequence. "Atmospheric entry commencing," declared the ship's computer, helpfully adding, "Caution, this atmosphere contains traces of nitrogen dioxide, sulfur compounds, and a sense of impending doom." "Sounds delightful," Graal mumbled as the ship shuddered violently. Flames flickered across the viewport, and for a brief instant, every individual on board regretted every single career decision they had ever made. Then, with a jarring impact, the ship landed in what the sensors had deemed a relatively safe area, a peaceful farm in Kansas. The initial encounter was about as seamless as a hovercar with several critical components missing. The ship's ramp descended, revealing the landing party clad in full environmental suits, which resembled oversized, gleaming silver marshmallows. Standing at the base of the ramp was an elderly human male in overalls, chewing on a piece of straw and exhibiting a distinct lack of awe. "Well, I'll be," the man drawled, squinting at the newcomers. "Aliens. The real McCoy." Graal stepped forward, cleared his throat, and initiated his universal translator. "Greetings, inhabitant of Earth. We come in." "Y'all are blocking my tractor," the man interrupted, pointing to the spaceship, which had unfortunately flattened a portion of his cornfield. "We apologize," Graal ventured, suddenly questioning whether this was the appropriate protocol for interacting with a species capable of casually interrupting extraterrestrial greetings. "Apologize and don't put corn back in the ground, pal," the man grumbled, shaking his head. Friday stepped forward, smiling broadly within her helmet. "We come in peace." The man snorted. "Well, you're lucky this ain't Texas. They'd have shot first and asked questions never." Graal exchanged a worried glance with Pedix, whose body language clearly communicated the message of the abort mission. However, before any decision could be made, the man produced a device, small yet somehow intimidating, a smartphone. "Say cheese," he declared, capturing a photo of the alien crew. "This is going on Facebook." "Facebook?" Pedix whispered nervously. "I don't like the sound of that," Graal responded. The first encounter went about as smoothly as a hovercar missing its anti-gravity generator. The ship's ramp descended, revealing the landing party in their environmental suits, resembling nothing so much as oversized, gleaming silver marshmallows. At the foot of the ramp stood an elderly human male in overalls, chewing on a piece of straw and looking distinctly unimpressed. "Well, I'll be," he drawled, squinting at the newcomers. "Aliens. The genuine article." Graal stepped forward, cleared his throat, and activated his universal translator. "Greetings, inhabitant of Earth. We come in." "You folks are obstructing my tractor," the farmer interrupted, gesturing towards the spacecraft, which had unfortunately landed squarely on a section of his cornfield. "We offer our apologies," Graal ventured, suddenly questioning the established protocol for interacting with a species that casually interrupted extraterrestrial greetings. Apologies don't bring back flattened corn, friend, the man grumbled, shaking his head. Friday stepped forward, smiling broadly inside her helmet. We come in peace. The farmer scoffed. Lucky for you this ain't Texas. They'd shoot first and ask questions later, if at all. Graal exchanged a worried look with Pedix, whose posture screamed abort. Abort! Before they could make a decision, however, the man produced a small, yet somehow menacing device, a smartphone. Smile for the camera, he declared, snapping a photo of the alien crew. This is going straight to Facebook. Facebook? Pedix whispered nervously. I have a bad feeling about this, Graal replied. Back on the *Oblivious Venture*, alarms blared as data streamed in from the planet's surface. The team's sensors were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of unusual activity, densely populated urban centers teeming with seemingly random movement, vehicles moving at alarming velocities, and something called fast food, which appeared to be a combination of questionable culinary practices and equally questionable eating habits. Captain, Pedix said, his voice trembling slightly, I'm detecting signs of organized chaos down there. They have rules, but they seem to break them for recreational purposes. And the mosquitoes? Graal asked grimly. Worse, Pedix replied, showing him a live feed of a human willingly leaping from an airplane, seemingly for fun. They seem to enjoy the mosquitoes. Captain Graal Glim had faced many challenges in his long career, rogue asteroids, bureaucratic oversight committees, and that one unfortunate incident where he'd accidentally insulted a Zorfithian diplomat by sneezing during a diplomatic greeting. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for his first encounter with human bureaucracy. It started innocently enough, or as innocently as any encounter could be, when one party arrives in a spacecraft resembling a giant metallic sardine. Following their impromptu meeting with the Kansas farmer, the local authorities were alerted, leading to the swift arrival of a squad car driven by Sheriff Martha Dugan. The sheriff's stoic expression suggested she'd seen far stranger things than aliens landing in a cornfield. License and registration, she said flatly, hands on her hips, as if the silver-suited extraterrestrials were just another group of out-of-towners trespassing on private property. Graal, momentarily speechless, turned to Friday. License and what is she talking about? Friday activated her translator, responding cheerfully, we don't possess those documents, but we assure you we're fully authorized by the Galactic Federation. No papers, Martha interrupted, raising an eyebrow. Well, isn't this just dandy? All right, you folks are coming with me. What? Graal exclaimed, aghast. We have committed no offense. We landed peacefully on private property, Martha cut him off, which, in case you haven't noticed, is against the law here. Now, get in the car or I'll have to issue you a citation. Graal blinked. A citation. Thus began the most surreal chapter of the mission, for aliens crammed into the back of a patrol car, their environmental suits squeaking against the upholstery. Back on the *Oblivious Venture*, alarms shrieked as information flooded in from Earth's surface. The sheer volume of unusual activity overwhelmed the team's sensors, densely packed city swarming with seemingly random motion, vehicles hurtling at breakneck speeds, and something called fast food, which appeared to be a combination of dubious culinary practices and equally dubious dietary choices. Captain, Pedix announced, his voice slightly shaky, I'm detecting indications of structured disorder. They possess regulations, yet they appear to violate them for recreational purposes. What about the mosquitoes? Graal inquired grimly. Worse, Pedix responded, displaying a live feed of a human deliberately jumping from an airplane, apparently for enjoyment. They appear to appreciate the mosquitoes. Captain Graal Glim had confronted numerous obstacles in his lengthy career, errant asteroids, bureaucratic review panels, and that one embarrassing occasion when he inadvertently offended a Zorfithian diplomat by sneezing during a formal greeting. Yet absolutely nothing could have prepared him for his initial encounter with human administrative procedures. It commenced innocuously enough, or as innocuously as any interaction can be when one participant arrives in a vessel resembling a giant metallic fish. Following their unexpected meeting with the Kansas farmer, local law enforcement was notified, resulting in the prompt arrival of a patrol car operated by Sheriff Martha Dugan. The sheriff's impassive expression implied that she had witnessed far stranger occurrences than aliens touching down in a cornfield. Driver's license and vehicle registration, she stated flatly, her hands resting on her hips, as if the silver-suited extraterrestrials were merely another set of out-of-towners encroaching upon private land. Graal, momentarily at a loss for words, turned to Friday. Driver's license, and what is she requesting? Friday engaged her translator, replying cheerfully, "We lack those specific documents, however, we assure you we're fully authorized by the Galactic Federation." "No paperwork," Martha interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "Well, isn't this a predicament? All right, come along with me." "What?" Graal exclaimed, bewildered. "We haven't broken any laws. We landed peacefully on private property," Martha interjected, "which, should you have failed to observe, is a violation of local ordinances. Now, enter the vehicle or I'll be compelled to issue you a citation." Graal blinked. A citation. Thus commenced the most bizarre phase of the mission, for aliens squeezed into the backseat of a patrol car, their environmental suits squeaking against the fabric. By the time they arrived at the local city hall, news of their presence had disseminated faster than a galactic-class hyperspace transmission. A throng of onlookers had congregated, armed with smartphones and an alarming quantity of snacks. Inside the building, Graal and his companions were directed to a waiting area furnished with plastic chairs and a vaguely unsettling aroma of cleaning agents. A receptionist presented them with a stack of forms. "What are these?" Graal inquired, handling the paperwork as if it might detonate. "Standard intake forms," the receptionist replied without glancing up. "Complete them in triplicate. Pens are on the counter." "We lack hands," Pedix murmured helplessly, gesturing with one of his tentacles. "No problem," the receptionist stated, sliding over a different form. "Just mark this box for Vlather." Graal scrutinized the form. "This box indicates a species incapable of cooperation." "Close enough," the receptionist remarked with a shrug. Meanwhile, the expanding crowd outside was growing restless. Humans, it seemed, possessed an insatiable craving for spectacle. Someone had positioned a food truck vending hot dogs, and the queue already extended around the block. Local journalists began to arrive, thrusting microphones at anyone within earshot. Sheriff Dugan eventually intervened. "All right, everyone, step back. Give the marshmallow people some breathing room." Inside, matters weren't progressing much more smoothly. Friday had endeavored to clarify their mission to the City Hall clerk, but each statement seemed to exacerbate the situation. "You're here to observe us," the clerk inquired, narrowing her eyes. "Sounds like espionage to me." No, we come in peace," Friday insisted, raising her hands in a gesture intended to convey tranquility. Unfortunately, it appeared suspiciously as though she was preparing to hurl something. "I'm contacting Homeland Security," the clerk muttered, reaching for her phone. As the hours dragged on, Graal found himself questioning every decision that had led him to this juncture. Pedix had withdrawn to a corner, silently lamenting the dearth of data they had acquired. Blam fidgeted nervously, poised to activate his personal defense mechanism at the slightest provocation. Friday, ever the optimist, was attempting to elucidate the concept of humor to a local reporter, though her efforts only seemed to confound him further. "Wait," the reporter interrupted, "you're telling me your entire species evolved without sarcasm?" "Yes," Friday replied earnestly, "our linguistic traditions prioritize clarity over whatever this sarcasm is." The reporter appeared dumbfounded. "How do you survive conversations?" Friday paused, genuinely perplexed. "We simply converse." By the time they arrived at the local city hall, news of their arrival had spread faster than a galactic plague. A crowd had gathered, armed with smartphones and an astonishing quantity of snacks. Inside, Graal and his companions were ushered to a waiting area furnished with uncomfortable plastic chairs and a peculiar odor of disinfectant. A receptionist presented them with a stack of forms. "What are these?" Graal inquired, holding the paperwork as if it were contaminated. Standard intake forms, the receptionist replied, not bothering to look up. Fill them out in triplicate. Pens are on the counter. We do not possess hands, Pedix mumbled helplessly, gesturing with a tentacle. No problem, the receptionist said, sliding a different form across the counter. Just check this box for leather. Graal examined the form. This box indicates a species incapable of cooperation. Close enough, the receptionist remarked with a shrug. Outside, the burgeoning crowd was getting restless. Humans, it seemed, had an insatiable need for entertainment. Someone had parked a food truck selling hot dogs, and the line already stretched around the block. Local news crews began to arrive, thrusting microphones at anyone in sight. Sheriff Dugan eventually stepped in. All right, everyone, back up. Give the marshmallow folks some air. Inside, things were not going any better. Friday had attempted to explain their mission to the City Hall clerk, but each explanation seemed to worsen the situation. You're here to observe us, the clerk asked suspiciously. Sounds like espionage to me. No, we come in peace, Friday insisted, raising her hands in a gesture meant to convey calmness. Unfortunately, it looked as if she was about to hurl something. I'm calling Homeland Security, the clerk muttered, reaching for the phone. As time wore on, Graal began to question the series of events that had brought him here. Pedix had retreated to a corner, silently bemoaning the lack of useful data they had collected. Blam fidgeted nervously, ready to deploy his personal defense system at the slightest provocation. Friday, ever optimistic, was trying to explain the concept of humor to a local reporter, but her efforts were only met with bewilderment. Wait, the reporter interrupted, you're saying your entire species evolved without sarcasm? Yes, Friday replied sincerely, our linguistic conventions prioritize clarity over whatever this sarcasm is. The reporter stared at her, dumbfounded. How do you even have conversations? Friday paused, genuinely confused. We simply communicate. Outside, the crowd had grown to a considerable size. Someone was selling alien-shaped balloons, while others had started taking bets on whether the visitors would be arrested, vaporized, or invited to dinner. Sheriff Dugan, standing on the steps of City Hall, shook her head. I don't know what's stranger, she muttered to herself, the fact that we have actual aliens in there, or the fact that no one seems even remotely surprised. Back inside, in the waiting room, Graal finally lost his patience. Enough, he exclaimed. We are beings of advanced intelligence, not paperwork to be processed. The receptionist glanced up, unimpressed. Well, if you don't like it, take it up with the mayor. Graal turned to his crew, his tentacles twitching with barely contained frustration. Fine. We shall see this, mayor. But if this is another delaying tactic, I swear. Before he could finish, the doors to City Hall swung open dramatically. In walked a man in an ill-fitting suit, grinning as if he had just won the galactic lottery. Welcome to Earth, he boomed, spreading his arms wide. I'm Mayor Bob, and boy, do I have some questions for you. Graal's eye stalks drooped. Of course you do, he sighed. Outside, the crowd had swelled to a truly impressive size. Entrepreneurial humans were selling alien-themed merchandise, including balloons shaped like the * Oblivious Venture * and t-shirts emblazoned with poorly-drawn portraits of the crew. Another group had initiated a betting pool on the aliens' ultimate fate, arrest, vaporization, or an invitation to the local potluck. Sheriff Dugan, observing the spectacle from the City Hall steps, just shook her head. I can't decide what's weirder, she muttered, the fact that we have actual extraterrestrials in custody, or the fact that no one seems remotely fazed by it. Inside, Graal's patience finally reached its limit. This is preposterous, he exclaimed. We are beings of superior intellect, not administrative fodder. The receptionist, without even glancing up, replied dryly, if you've got a complaint, take it up with the mayor. Graal turned to his crew, his tentacles quivering with barely suppressed fury. Very well. We will speak to this mayor. But if this is yet another delaying tactic, I swear. Before he could unleash the full force of his frustration, the doors to City Hall burst open. In strode a man in a slightly ill-fitting suit, beaming like he'd just won the cosmic sweepstakes. "Welcome to Earth," he boomed, extending his arms in a welcoming gesture. "I'm Mayor Bob, and I've got a million questions for you." Growl's eye stalks drooped. "Naturally," he sighed. Growl sat opposite Mayor Bob in what, by human standards, was considered a formal office. To Growl, it resembled a haphazard collection of discarded furniture from a galactic flea market, adorned with motivational posters like "Teamwork makes the dream work," a feeble attempt at diplomacy. Mayor Bob leaned forward, his smile unnervingly broad. "So, aliens, Kay? What brings you folks to our little blue marble? Trade? Tourism? Please tell me it's not conquest, because, well, good luck with that." Growl hesitated. How could he explain their mission without sounding either condescending or utterly terrifying? "We are here to observe your species," he stated carefully. "Your planet is categorized as unique." Bob chuckled. "Unique? That's a polite way of saying utterly bonkers, isn't it?" Growl opted for silence, which Bob interpreted as agreement. Meanwhile, the rest of the landing party was being questioned in a separate room by a group of local scientists and government officials. Pedix, ever eager to engage with new cultures, posed the question that had been plaguing them since their arrival: how do you people survive? Dr. Janine Hopper, a biologist from the local university, adjusted her glasses. "We adapt," she stated simply. "Adapt?" Pedix echoed, incredulous. "To what? Your environment is a relentless series of death traps. Predatory creatures, geological instability, toxic flora, mosquitoes." Janine shrugged. "That's humanity for you. If it doesn't kill us outright, we either learn to live with it or figure out how to eat it." Blam, who had been quietly observing, leaned forward. "Eat it?" "Oh, absolutely," Janine replied casually. "Humans will eat practically anything. Crabs, for example. Giant armored sea bugs. Delicious." Blam recoiled, visibly horrified. "You consume armored creatures?" Another scientist chimed in. "Yeah, if it moves, we've probably deep-fried it at some point." Back in the mayor's office, Bob was extolling the virtues of Earth in a way only a human could. "You gotta understand, Captain, we're a scrappy bunch. Earth has tried to kill us in every conceivable way: fires, floods, diseases, carnivorous animals, and yet, here we are. Heck, we even invent new ways to almost kill ourselves, just to keep things interesting." Growl's tendrils twitched. "New ways?" "Oh, sure," Bob said with a dismissive wave. "Extreme sports, questionable food choices, reality television, pure chaos. But that's humanity in a nutshell. Take chaos, add a dash of stubbornness, and call it progress." Growl stared at him. "You embrace chaos?" Bob laughed. "Embrace it? Captain, we celebrate it? Why else would we put explosives in the hands of children every 4th of July? Growl made a mental note to request a full psychological evaluation of this species upon his return to the Federation. Just then, Friday, who had been unusually quiet, timidly raised a hand. "Mayor Bob," she began, "we've observed that your species has a rather unusual reaction to danger. You seem to find it entertaining." Bob frowned, then his face lit up with understanding. "Oh, you mean fear is fun? Roller coasters, haunted houses, horror movies, that sort of thing?" "Yes," Friday replied. "Most species avoid fear for obvious reasons of self-preservation, but you humans actively seek it out." Bob nodded sagely. "That's because fear reminds us we're alive. And if you can laugh at it, even better." Growl interjected, his voice tinged with disbelief. "You laugh at fear?" "Oh, yeah," Bob said. "Take tornadoes. Terrifying, right? But we've got folks who'll stand outside with a camera filming it while yelling, 'Look at that twister go!' Growl rubbed his temples, or the alien equivalent thereof. Your species makes no logical sense. Bob grinned. Exactly. And that's what makes us so great. In the other room, the scientists continued their Q&A with Pedix and Blam. The aliens were struggling to comprehend human logic, or the apparent lack thereof. So, Pedix began cautiously, "You're saying your species thrives not despite the danger, but because of it?" Janine nodded. Pretty much. Take caffeine, for example. Technically a poison, but we drink it every day. Coffee is life, someone added. You poison yourselves daily ? Blam yelped. Just a little, Janine said cheerfully. Enough to keep us going, but not enough to kill us. It's a fine line. Blam muttered something about filing a complaint with the Galactic Health Council. By the end of their visit, Growl and his crew were more confused than ever. As they regrouped in the town square, now overflowing with food trucks, alien merchandise, and a man selling inflatable Mars rover replicas, Growl turned to Pedix. Well, he asked. Pedix shook his head. They're not just survivors, Captain. They're *Thrivers star. They take the chaos of this planet and transform it into something else. It's not logical, but it works for them. Growl sighed. This mission was a mistake. Friday interjected, but a fascinating one. Growl groaned. Yes, fascinating. Like watching a meteor hurtling towards your ship. Just then, Mayor Bob reappeared, holding a plate of something fried and unidentifiable. "You're hungry? Figured I'd treat you to some good old Earth cuisine." The crew stared at the offering. Pedix scanned it with his tricorder. This contains 800% of the recommended daily sodium intake for most species. Yep, Bob said proudly. We call it a corn dog. Growl muttered something about resigning, but before he could fully object, Blam grabbed the plate and took a large bite. He froze, his eyes widening. This is incredible. Bob grinned. Welcome to Earth.